Marty, did you hear the
I
Olympics is going on this week? I didn't even know. I had
that
no
caught
idea.
that caught me off guard too. I had no idea that the Olympics were starting. I should have known because I've seen a few little stories on Netflix and stuff like that that seem to be centered around that. But yeah, the Olympics started I think on Friday in Paris.
Where? In Paris. Okay,
Yeah,
that's where it is.
yeah.
All I know is that our Canadian uniforms came out, and
Oh
well,
God, no, no, no.
it's awful. It's absolutely awful. I don't know what they were thinking. Anyway, this is Lululemon,
What is the
Canadian.
guy? What's the one in the middle? Has he got something on his head that looks like a Santa Claus hat, or what? Sorry, Clyde. What's going on here?
No, I don't even know what's going
I
on,
don't even
but
know.
yeah,
Okay.
it's just awful. It's absolutely awful. It looks like somebody with white clothes on got attacked by, I don't know, some environmentalist or something, paint thrown on them, or some activist for some feminist cause or what have you. But yeah, this is our representation in the world stage. Thanks to Lululemon. Apparently, the Canadian stock market
Oh
hasn't
my
been doing well.
God.
I wonder how. I
Gee,
wonder how Lululemon's doing today after this.
I don't think actually Lululemon started out in Canada. I think they're an American-based company now. They trade on the Nasdaq, so they probably. I could go look it up real
Well,
quick. They
because
probably
if
took it. Yeah.
just like anything, if you want to expand, you leave the country, you get out of Canada, and this has been the trend lately. This is realistically, if you want to build your business and you want it to do better, you leave. You take off.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
out of Canada, you bring your manufacturing to some other place, and you bring your headquarters to somewhere better.
But before we get too far, like those uniforms, I mean, that's brutal. Like, I mean, come on, like Team Canada. I mean, think about how proud we used to be. Like, we have such great potential with the uniform. I mean, you got you can have the maple leaf on there. You can have something of the Rockies theme. You can have water. You can have swoosh and movement and things like that. And then they go like this looks like somebody just took finger paint and smeared it all over a shirt. Like I've like God, if Team Canada plays dressed like this, come on, like that's embarrassing. Like,
It is
or
embarrassing.
it looks kind of
But it's
like a
par for the course
camouflage.
these days.
Yeah, is this a camouflage where we're going to blend in and nobody wants to see us? Like, come on, God,
Yeah,
who chooses
it,
this stuff?
it's the
Like,
digital camo that
yeah,
the armed forces have been using, only in red and white, so they can blend in
jeez,
with nothing, absolutely nothing.
yeah. Yeah, no. Well, and you were talking about the stock market. I mean, the Canadian stock market today had a bad day. Like it was, the Canadian stock market had a bad day. The interest rate, we'll talk about that one, and the exchange rate. I mean, the Canadian exchange rate with the dollar has gone down like 8 9 days in a row now. I think our dollar is getting awful close to that 70 cent mark, which for a lot of people that's kind of like that mental milestone, right? Like when you're getting 30 cents, paying an extra 30 cents for an American dollar, you start to feel it. So and more signs that the economy is not doing well. I mean, Tiff Macklin today was the day, right? The interest rate. He dropped the interest rate, and you and I have talked about this before.
I was not expecting this. I thought they had more common sense than this.
Yep,
And really, realistically, all they're doing is kicking the can down the road. Hey,
yep,
you know,
yep.
the idea is get out of this recession. And yeah, they might say that we're not in a recession. Look at the GDP numbers. Well, look at the GDP per capita numbers. And we keep getting back to that. They're
Yep.
flubbing the numbers. They're giving us fake numbers. We've been in recession month over month over month, quarter after quarter after quarter. We are in recession. The definition of recession is two consecutive quarters of negative growth. And that's
And I
that's
think we're
where
at
we're at.
we're at 5 out of 6 quarters, in fact. So we've had a lot of our GDP per capita is back to pre 2014 levels. So it's
That's
really
right. That's
ugly.
exactly right. Actually, I
Yeah.
have that graph. I can put it up on the screen right now because I was talking about this just in a video this morning talking about it. We're right back. We're just below where we were in quarter four in 2014. What happened just
Yep.
after quarter four 2014, Marty?
Ah,
Was something that occurred in Canada? I don't know. Something happened and it really changed the course of Canadian history forever.
some guy with
Just
nice hair who just wasn't ready got elected. Yeah.
Holy
And
cow, that guy was
yeah,
born not ready. He'll never be ready.
look at the damage he's caused. And did you so the yeah, I was surprised that the interest rates came out a little bit lower. To me, it's truly a political um compromise, right? Everybody says the bank operates at arm's length from the government. Bullshit. I mean, Tiff Macklin got somebody called him and said, "Do us a favor, bud. We need a little break." Because
And they're
and
ever so little breaks. They're not even substantial in
no,
any way. A quarter of a percent, 25 basis points. Like, it
but
really, it
but
doesn't do
even
anything. But it's prolonging the problem.
yep.
This is the issue.
And when he was talking at the press conference after he announces that, like he sounded what's the word, not confused but betrayed or whatever,
Defeated.
defeated. I mean, he's trying to put on a brave face and talk about, well, we think the economy is doing strong and whatnot, but the body language did not match his words. And very smart people challenged him quickly, going like, if you think that the economy is warming up, then why would you lower the interest rate, right? So there's questions like that were asked of him, and he had conflicting answers. So
Well, in the news articles that I was reading about it, like every headline, almost every headline was saying, "Oh, because we got lower inflation numbers, the interest rate, the prime rate can go down. This is why the Bank of Canada is doing this." But we've been pointing out how they flubbed the numbers in order to get the numbers that they got. They got those numbers because they changed the basket of goods. They changed how they measure the basket of goods. And it's really, I have to reiterate this almost every single time we do this, because I don't know who's new and viewing in for maybe the first
yep,
time. But when they measure inflation, they're measuring the effects of inflation. The monetary supply expanding is inflation.
yep.
Then they measure the effects of it, and every country has a different basket of goods in which they measure against the changing prices. And the worst part is how they keep changing what's in the basket of goods. And when they're not changing what's in the basket of goods, they change how much significance or weight each item has in the basket of goods, and it's changing the ruler in order to flub the numbers to make the government at the time look good. Now, that shouldn't reflect on the Bank of Canada and their decisions. This should be a market phenomenon. The market's crying for higher interest rates. I know people in the market don't want higher interest rates, but real investment needs higher interest rates.
Well, and the other ones who need inflation is the government themselves, right? You and I know this. We what year did we walk away from the gold standard? In the 1970s or something like that? I mean,
Yeah.
we have this fiat, and I never remember what fiat stands for, but we have an
It just means
artificial
by decree. It's not
by
even
decree. Yeah, it's a Latin word,
yeah.
right? So so the paper currency we produce is a way to record the time value of something. That's all it is. So you issue the piece of paper today, and the only way it's worth more is if you lend it to somebody who agrees to give you something more in the future. So it's and absolutely it is the lender, and in this case the government's absolute total interest to have higher interest and inflation. Inflation, the whole fiat currency relies on a piece of paper being worth more in the future than it is today. It's completely artificial. And so once you start understanding that, then you see, God, I mean, when you really break down the big picture, like it's all related, right? Does the government want inflation? Yes, because it's lending money and it helps the bank. Why else do they want inflation? Because it creates an artificial increased revenue through taxes and through property values, which then people will sell when it gets too uncomfortable to own the house. And who benefits when you sell your house? The government will benefit because they're going to tax it through capital gains. And then there's going to be more wealth transfer. Like when you look at the whole picture of what they're doing, it's all by design, man. And defending ourselves from that is so incredibly hard. And I'm going to give you a pitch here, because I know you are sponsored by some guys who do currency. Like the best way to protect yourself these days, I swear to God, is to buy gold and silver. Because when you look around, man, oh man, like, yeah,
Absolutely, and no better place to do it than World Precious Metals. Go check them out. I've had Bryce on the show. He's he'll probably the guy you end up talking to if you give them a shout. And yeah, they've been helping out the channel, doing a great job. Bang up, making things simple too, and not having to get into this massive confusing thing with brokerages or buying paper stocks of things. Now you buy physical gold and silver, precious metals, you can have it delivered right to your door or have it stored in their facilities if you want to keep it safe. This is definitely the way to go. And yeah, I'm with you on the buying physical things, actual money, real money, because it's been money for a long time. Now I wanted to get into interest rates. And here's an interesting thing, like for people who want to dork out a little more on economics, especially Austrian economics, because I think they have the best explanation for why things work in the economy than perhaps the other schools. I had a guest, one of my heroes in economics, Dr. Walter Block. He came on, insisted I call him Walter, and I had a chat with him. I'll leave a link in the description down below if you want to check that out. We get into some of the things, and one of the things that I find the most elegant in the Austrian School of Economics is their explainer for why interest rates are even a thing in the first place. And it's amazing. Ludwig von Mises, the founder of the Austrian School, and it's only called Austrian School because the guy who came up with this theory was from Austria.
Was Austrian.
Yeah. So, but he has this elegant answer for why interest rates are a thing. Like in years past, in previous generations, like religions even made it usury if you charged interest, and it was a crime, right? Because people didn't understand it. And there's a particular part that was missing from the understanding of why interest rates are the price that they are and why it can actually be a market phenomenon, is because people didn't understand time preference. The concept of I want money now and I'm willing to pay a surplus to get it now rather than save up the money and then have it later. And so that I can consume something in the immediate, because I think that there's a more pressing issue that needs to be, a pressing thing, capital that needs to be purchased now, and I'm willing to pay a surplus over, whatever. And then the money that you would borrow has to be liquid assets that are in the market. And there you have your supply and demand curve. The demand comes from people's preference to have something at a surplus now over buying it later, and the supply would be how many savers there are in the market with liquid assets. What central banks do is they upset this whole thing by having fiat currency that you can print and expand the monetary supply, and then you have people looking at an artificially low interest rate or artificially high interest rate, and it creates all these peaks and troughs in the marketplace, and you get malinvestment. And this is the idea of the boom bust cycle. So yeah, if you want a more intricate conversation about that, link in the description down below. But yeah, this is what's happening. We're manipulating the monetary supply, we're manipulating interest rates, and we're suffering the consequences of it. And the consequences of keeping them low is kicking the can down the road. People are going to stay in malinvestment, and we're not going to see a recovery anytime soon.
Well, and staying on the topic of interest rates in Canada, this morning, some people celebrated the slightly lower interest rate. So if you're the one person who has to renew your mortgage tomorrow morning, you're cheering a little bit, because instead of renewing at 4.5% or 4.75, you're renewing at 4.5. So you got a little bit of relief. But by lowering interest rates, what the government basically does, or the bank, is they threw in money into the economy, because suddenly somebody who wasn't thinking of buying a house will say, oh, well, now I can borrow it. So now on the supply and demand, the number of houses didn't increase, but the number of people wanting to buy houses increased ever so slightly, because they have access to cheaper money. So what's that going to do? That's going to drive the price of houses up. So, I mean, it's a complicated business. Would I want to be the manager of the Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklin? No. Well, actually, maybe I would like to be him. Maybe. But
I'd be an Alan Greenspan, if anything. I'd be like the chairman of the Federal Reserve in the 1980s.
Well, you don't want to be You don't want to be a Mark Carney?
No. I mean, if enriching yourself and while screwing every middle class person over, that's Mark Carney right there. No, Alan Greenspan, people don't know, it was the chairman of the Fed in the 1980s that raised the prime rate to 19.5%, and that was a tough decision, but he had the balls to do it. It was largely unpopular, but it saved them from an even bigger recession that
I,
they were having.
I'm looking over my shoulder because I have an Alan Greenspan signed book. I have his book signed by Alan Greenspan, and I have pictures of me and Alan Greenspan. So I met Alan Greenspan. I worked for a company that sponsored him at one of his conferences. But I'll tell you one quick thing about Alan Greenspan that was fascinating. You know how some people talk, and myself included, will say a lot of hums and haws and are pausing and doing that. You know, some people are worse than others. Trudeau's the worst. Alan Greenspan speaks and never says hum or ah, and he would answer questions, and just listening to him speak was poetry. Anyways, my story. Hey, before we get off the topic of markets and interest rate, once we do live in a free market society, and once in a while free markets do dictate, right? You saw the story, it happened since our last show. Ford, not Ford the governor or the premier, but Ford Motor Company, despite Canada's best efforts to make us buy EVs and change the laws, Ford announced last week that they were going to start building Ford F-150s, the electric versions, at their Oakville plant. And they kiboshed that. And at first everybody's like, oh, okay, maybe they're just going to make smaller EVs or something like that. No, read the headlines. Yeah.
This one killed me. Killed me. Ford plans to build large Super Duty trucks at Ontario Ford Production. So what they're going to do is Ford abandons EV plans and invest $3 billion in Super Duty diesels.
What do you think Stephen Guilbeault did when he first heard this news? Right? Like, holy smokes.
He probably cried in his little pillow made of recycled straws.
and I like seeing this because I've always said that, in the battle of ideology versus real practicality or pragmatism, generally speaking, pragmatism eventually wins out, right? And the whole idea of subsidizing electric vehicles that nobody wants, that don't work in the trucks and stuff like that, it's falling by the wayside. So.
And Super Duties are very popular. I'm a mechanic. I know. I see them all the time. They're very popular. And for people who and I was wondering this for a while too. Why do cars keep getting so much bigger? It's previous environmental standards, the CAFE standards that came out of the United States, that dictated this. The reason why cars keep getting bigger is because they have to make the bodies bigger to fit the engine size. If people want a certain amount of power, so in order to provide what the market wants, they have to follow the government regulation. They would make smaller cars with big engines that would be just fine, but they can't. So they have to fit a certain footprint. They have to fit a certain GVW, gross vehicle weight, and it's environmental. This is an economic thing. It's the law of unintended consequences. Totally. You do something and you don't see what's going to happen down the road and how people are going to actually go along with your regulations.
Well, yeah, and another interesting thing is human nature, right? Like we've talked about this before. Like if I give you a truck that gets, I don't know, I'll make a number, 500 miles to the gallon, and you can afford $500 worth of fuel. If I suddenly give you a truck that gets 200 miles to the gallon, you're still going to spend $500 in fuel. So you're going to go twice as far with the truck. And that's the other thing that's happened. If you can build a truck that's more efficient or bigger and gets the same mileage, whatever, like human nature will never take advantage of the built-in efficiencies. They'll just keep spending and do things bigger. By the way, what's the biggest Ford truck engine these days? Do you know, like, what are they putting out for a big diesel in there? Is it like a 6-7 liter kind of thing?
Yeah, 6.7 liter V8 diesel. That's
how much horsepower would something like that put out? Like ballpark, is that 500-600 horsepower, or is it? It's big, right?
I could look it up.
Don't look it up. But I mean, for
specialty course, I know it's well over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, like at the rear wheels.
So when Ford, like that's a big announcement. When if Ford said we're not making F-150 EVs, we're making whatever Ford Focus EVs. That'd be cool, but Guilbeault is going to freak out because they're going like Ford's not even doing an apples to apples. They're going to build big trucks with big.
They can't keep
diesel
them on the
engines.
lots, though. They can't keep them
Yeah.
on the lots. They can't build them fast enough. I can understand why they would say,
Yeah.
forget it. Let's not do EVs. Let's make more of these
Well, even
350 Super Duties, because people are just gobbling them up.
I've shown the stats on this. I mean, the Canadians started buying more SUVs and trucks than cars after 2014. That's when the two lines crossed. Since 2014, SUVs, vans, and trucks dominate the market. I mean, even myself, I wanted to buy a small car for one of my sons. You know, we talked about that, and you can't find them, especially here in Alberta. There's no cars, man. Everybody has a truck or an SUV, and not small ones. Big ones.
No big ones.
Yeah.
And you have to go Japanese because you're not going to find really any in the domestic big auto manufacturers these days. Not really. Not a whole lot. That's the way it goes.
That's amazing. So we're like 20 minutes into the show and we're talking about some important stories, but we still haven't even talked about the big stories. Like
what? The fact
Joe
that
Biden dropped out of the electoral. Yeah, Joe Biden dropped out of the race, man. Like, how come we haven't talked about that yet?
Yeah, Joe Biden dropped out, and I mean, I was kind of unexpected. I didn't think he was gonna just like straight up drop out just like that. I thought he said that he was gonna stick it out. I knew there was like a coup going on in their own party, but nonetheless, that's.
I mean, in the hindsight, it makes the debate look a little more staged now. Like, was he sabotaged at the debate? You know, and by sabotage, I literally mean like, did they hold it late at night so he didn't get his nap? Did they forget to give him his drugs so he'd be wide awake? I mean, it kind of like. The debate looks suspicious, and now in hindsight, was it an attempt
what looks even more suspicious is the response from the media about the debate. And Elon Musk tweeted about this recently. I thought this was incredible. It says about 3 weeks ago, the media told you that Biden was sharp as a tack. Yeah. 2 days ago, the poor guy was basically forced at gunpoint to resign as Dem nominee. His staff weren't even informed. Now they say Kamala, I don't know how to say her name, is the best thing ever. And he gives this video. I'm going to show a tiny portion of it.
These suggestions that somehow he's not sharp, he's sharp as a tack.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death.
Actually, Joe Biden is sharper and has more mental acuity than Donald Trump.
No, they're eating their words, right? I mean, they're
Joe Biden.
Oh, they're totally eating their words. It's ridiculous.
By the way, you know Elon's platform. You know Elon's platform is super powerful now because basically the world found out that Joe was stepping down on Twitter before we found out anywhere else. Like, that's how powerful, Elon's platform is. Yeah. No, it's
great. He's moving the headquarters to Austin as well. That's they're getting out of California. It's done.
Man, you're gonna meet all sorts of rich people, and I can't wait till you move down there. I'll come once a week and do the show. You're gonna be rich enough you can fly me down for the show once a week, and then yeah. No, and so nobody's talking about Joe. I mean, he went into hiding basically. I love the rumors that he was dead, but I think the U.S. Constitution and their system is a little bit more sophisticated than that. I mean, I wouldn't put it past some other democracies, like if the South Korean or the North Korean leader dies, I'm sure they'll keep that hidden for a while. The Putins might hide it for a while, but the Americans, if the president dies, that doesn't stay hidden for a while. But I didn't have Joe Biden stepping down on my bingo card, and then I certainly didn't have Kamala, or I don't know how you say her name, Harris, becoming what's the rule there? She's not. Is she the candidate for the Democrats, or she's the leading candidate, and they still need a convention of some sort?
No, she is the candidate. She's the candidate. And she's going to have to pick a running mate. And that's
So
the
did they
thing.
make a special
But-
rule, or that always existed?
But I mean, here's the thing: they don't want her to run. She's not popular. I mean, just have a look at what she has to say. It's crazy. This is not what they're looking to run against Donald Trump.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know? What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
What we can see, what we believe can be unburdened by what has.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What
And-
can
and-
be unburdened.
Basically,
Been doing it to Bill Clinton.
yeah, that's kind of like one of those nonsensical lines. But if you think about it, she's the way I interpret it, she's kind of saying, "Hey, I can do good things. Ignore what I've done. I can do good things." Like it's a plea to ignore her past. I know she's trying to be clever with it, but actually, you're right. No, they don't want her, and she lost. We forget, right? She did run to be president or the Democratic nominee. She did do that. Like I don't know if it was the last election or 4 elections or 2 elections ago, and she came in last the first time. So behind all sorts of heavy hitting Democrats. But I don't know how they.
Now
get
I'm
rid
wondering
of her.
if they're gonna pull a move, right? So it's funny because like Joe Biden apparently was the most popular president ever elected in presidential history. If you believe the numbers that came out. Anyway, there's certain rules on YouTube to talk about that. Most popular president in presidential history. And he was the nominee. The people picked him, and then there was a coup within the Democrat Party. So now we're in a situation where the Democrats are running on a platform where they had to kick out their leader, the democratically elected leader, kick him out and install somebody else in order to save democracy, they say.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
No, and so it's not to save democracy. So I'm guessing their actual reality is they just don't have time to hold a quick convention to replace him. But wow, yeah, this is going to be awesome for. There's a lot for both sides to exploit. I mean, yes, Trump can exploit the fact that they claim to be Democratic, but they appointed a candidate instead of having dutiful elections or whatever. And I imagine on her side, Kamala is a former prosecutor, so she's going to have fun playing the role of prosecutor, trying to re-prosecute Donald Trump, the felon. Man, we're in for.
We're in for something.
Yeah,
and here in
yeah.
Canada, I mean, we have our dutifully elected official out on vacation. That's what he's doing. While everybody else, I saw you got blocked by Norman Spector because you mentioned that he like, what are you talking about? Because what was it? He said on Twitter that
Norman said you shouldn't disturb
Give
the
him a
prime
break,
minister
he's on
when he's on
vacation.
vacation. Yeah, and I didn't. All I did was retweet Norman, and in fact I even honestly thought when I was retweeting him, I was like, does the prime minister deserve to be on not harassed on vacation? And I was going to say, P.S. Don't attack Norman. I'm simply requoting, and he blocked me just for retweeting him. I'm like, wow, that's pretty thin-skinned. But
that's brutal.
But to
I
answer
had
the question,
my sentiment on it was, in a country where we're in how many months or how many quarters of recession, the prime minister doesn't get a vacation. You don't get a vacation. Sorry.
No.
None of us are getting vacations, especially 9 vacations in 1 year. Give me a break. You don't get a break.
Yeah, and he's asked that question. Don't you think I deserve? Or not true. Other people have said that to me. Like, don't you think the prime minister deserves a vacation? I'm like, he does, but it is a hard job, and he's agreed to do a hard job. And I think when you agree to do a hard job, you have to put some things on hold in your life, like your vacation to Disney World, let's say. And we as taxpayers recognize that, and we have things in place for that. That's why the prime minister has 2 residences. He has a summer cottage and a home, and that's why he has a chef and a maid and things like that, because we recognize that his life is not entirely normal while he's prime minister. He makes a few sacrifices, but we compensate. Trudeau wants his cake and he wants to eat it too. He wants the house. He wants the cottage. He wants the maid. He wants the private jet. He wants to go to Florida whenever he wants to. He wants to go surf. He wants it all. So, but yeah, interestingly, apart from Norman, the reason Norman asked the question, let's talk about it, is because a journalist, we can mention his name, right? Cian
Bexte from the
Cian
Counter-Signal.
Bexte seems to have scored a pretty good hit. He put 1 and 1 together. I mean, you and I know, everybody knows that Trudeau likes to vacation in Tofino or that part of the world. He likes surfing. So Cian looks like he took a chance and flew out to that neck of the woods and sort of like walked the beach day after day and eventually stumbled on Trudeau.
Yeah.
And
then got an interview.
And to me, that's valid.
Actually got an interview.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I was expecting just bodyguards to just okay, get out of here, bugger off. But Trudeau looks like he reluctantly came in for the interview. I only saw the trailer. Now I'm telling you that I only saw the trailer because I didn't know that it was available for public, because it says here on his website behind a paywall. And that's why I never saw it. And then we just got going just before the chat here, and you informed me that he put it on his YouTube channel because, well, people had mentioned that they didn't like that, and unfortunately, because of this, they're like, nobody's seen it.
It started leaking out anyways. I think, a lot to unpack there. First of all, let's talk about the interview. Let's forget about the paywall and stuff like that. So I think, people said that it was fake. Okay, everybody was going over the top saying it's fake. They're even referencing the fact that Trudeau was wearing jeans while walking on the beach, had a Canadian Pride T-shirt. They're like, it's all constructed. I'm like, that's an interesting theory.
I doubt that, because he's probably going to want to be pictured. Like, there's going to be paparazzi hiding everywhere to take pictures of him. He's going to want to wear the things that he wants to look good for his campaign that's coming up, right?
Yeah. And so, and then is it, like I said earlier, is it possible that Cian picked the right beach and walked? Yes, because I'll give you a personal story.
There's not a lot of beaches in Tofino.
No, there's not a lot of beaches, and I remember about 3 months ago, Trudeau was coming to Calgary. Remember, to meet with Danielle. And me personally, I decided to go downtown, and I hit the 6 or 7 hotels that I thought Trudeau might be at. And then I missed him, and you're busy running around. You're taking a chance. And then that night, Cian had an interview and caught him coming out. He didn't give him an interview that time. He just caught him coming out and had the camera on him. But I remember thinking, oh, good for you, you little bugger. You picked the right hotel. And so I'll put it out there. My comments on his interview, it looks genuine to me. Okay, it looks genuine. I mean, to me, I see Trudeau suddenly gets approached by a guy. His bodyguards had an immediate reaction. Trudeau pushed him away, Cian, that is, and then Cian persisted, and then Trudeau said, "You know what? I got this." He told his bodyguards, "Step back," and he finally turned to Cian and said, "I'll talk to you for a couple of minutes." He looked like maybe he had a change of heart. He maybe quickly realized that that just blowing him off would look bad, or maybe fresh in his mind, he could have had a debrief with a chief of staff a couple of weeks ago saying, "Hey, Justin, maybe be a little more open," whatever. So anyways, I'll put it out there. I put it out there on Twitter. I think the interview looked genuine. That's it. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it later, because obviously I didn't know it was out there for people to watch. Again, I'll leave a link in the description down below. I think it's tragic just because of how it got released, that not enough people have got eyeballs on it. I think this is the kind of thing that should go nationwide. Lots of people, even viral people would catch this and go watch it. But yeah, there's not enough eyeballs on it. So
I'll
leave a link in the description for everybody.
Yeah, I two more things to talk about on this one. One thing that I found unusual is when I said I think Trudeau, I think it looks genuine. Man, I got attacked. Suddenly, I had people go, "Oh no, it's staged," and I'm like, I'm simply discussing it, right? It's my opinion that it looks genuine, and people are like, "Well, if you don't think it's staged, then you're a moron, or you're an idiot, or you're part of the problem." I was really disappointed at like how it's so it happens regularly on both sides of the spectrum. I guess the left must have their similar discussions, but when it happens on the right, on our side, I'm like, God, I agree with you on 99% of the stuff. And because suddenly I think that this is not a controlled opposition, I'm a complete idiot. Like, come on, folks, be more open-minded than that. And then I'll talk pragmatically. You and I were talking about, I think Keane made a sort of a mistake with this one by putting it behind the paywall. It didn't help his cause, right? He got called a grifter for doing this, and but then I can also be sympathetic. No, he's not.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to get paid for what they do. I just don't. I didn't think that this was like the best way to go about it. I think this one could have been the catch all. Catch a lot of eyeballs. Look at the great work that he did. Throw it out there. It goes viral. Goes coast to coast. And then, hey, if you like more of what we do, come check us out, and that kind of thing.
I mean, he went as far as posting his expenses. He showed that he had spent $2,500 on plane tickets, hotel reservations, and ferries or whatever.
Oh, I believe it.
And $2,500 to make that back on a $5 paywall, dude. Like, swallow this $5. Just put it out there in the public domain, and you'd have increased your audience by 100,000 viewers instantly, I think. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's too bad. Sorry, Dex Keane, because you do good work. I think I don't completely approve of his style. It's a bit of the paywall rebel model is not my favorite model, but yeah, you and I are independent journalists, and yes, folks, we get a few bucks for this, right? My engagements are worth something on YouTube and on Twitter, and yours are worth something on YouTube, and it's not all for free. Especially in the case of a Keane who has to travel somewhere, that's not free.
No kidding. No kidding.
Yeah.
If you're footing it out, you hope that you can make something back in the career that it is that you've chosen. So hopefully people go check out the video. Again, a link is in the description down below. I'll have it up there so everybody can go check it out and hopefully get the numbers up so the YouTube algorithm will pick it up and let more eyeballs be put on that video, because this is the kind of thing that we want to see more of. Now, I got a little bit.
Now, just before you go, I know you didn't watch the video, but I'll tell you the funniest part of the video. The funniest part of the video is Trudeau thinks he works harder than any Canadian. That's a joke. Like, he literally is on record saying, so if there's content creators that want to make fun of something, that's the clip you make fun of. Grab that clip of Trudeau saying I work harder than anybody else and make a shit ton of memes out of that one, because man, he's narcissistic. You listen to that, even though he's trying to be casual, his narcissism comes out. He cannot help himself, man. In the video, he's entitled to the plane, he's entitled to his vacation, he's entitled to his entitlement, he's entitled to your money. He's
your money, exactly is what it is. And with all of us doing worse off every day because of him being in that office, no, you're not entitled to any of that crap.
No,
you're not entitled to any of that crap. And yeah, I'm going to criticize you for that. Something I got a little pushback on today was a tweet that I put out, and that was I'll just put it up here because there was I think this was in Edmonton. We've been seeing this a lot across Canada, the Khalistani movement, and there's this long lines of cars with the Khalistan flag, slow rolling, and this was in Alberta recently. And I just threw this up there as a question: how many Quebec separatists do you think live in India? A serious question.
Nice.
Serious
nice
question.
Cars, by the way, they got. Are you sure that's Edmonton or Calgary? I didn't even hear about this.
I believe it was, yeah.
Okay.
And so the question being, how many Quebec separatists? Of course, immediately everybody threw out the race card. Oh, why are you saying racist stuff, Clyde? What are you talking about? I'm talking about separatist movements being in the wrong country doing their slow rolls. I don't think that there's Quebec separatists in India saying Quebec wants to separate from Canada, because that would just be ludicrous, wouldn't it?
Right.
And that's what I'm commenting on.
Right. So if 10,000 Quebecers moved to India and started protesting like this, what would the Indian government do to those protesters? You'd be hauled out of there. Whereas we allow basically foreigners to come to our country and take their local fight onto our soil. Like this is inconveniencing the drivers in that community for a battle that has nothing to do with Canada.
Nothing to do with Canada. And here's where it gets confusing, because I even had a misconception when I was first looking into this. I thought there was people that were trying to make a state of Khalistan within Canada, and that's not the case. That's absolutely not even the case. They want to create a Khalistan in India, but you're talking about residents of Canada putting on these things. You don't even see Khalistan protests in India because they're deemed a terrorist organization in India. They're not allowed to do these demonstrations, but we see a lot of it in Canada.
Is that the group that Jagmeet Singh is often associated with?
That's why he can't.
Is he a Khalistani whatever supporter, sympathizer, or whatever? He is, eh?
Yeah, I think there was videos of him in the past with some of the like leadership of it, and talking about how even, you know, the use of violence can be justified for your political cause, and it was those words that got him banned. And not only that, but they had a convicted Khalistani person in their entourage. I think Trudeau did when they went to India at one point. Anyway, Jagmeet Singh has been told he can't enter the country of India because of his ties with that organization.
Yeah, I don't know enough of that about that topic, but yes, I agree definitely with your premise. I mean, them bringing their fight over here and protesting on our land and inconveniencing us seems a little bit. That's the kind of stuff where, you know, how many of their bank accounts got frozen, right? Because on our side, you know, truckers had their bank accounts frozen for donating $20 to a GoFundMe campaign. So, you know, tit for tat. But I actually took a nosedive too. Not a nosedive. I took a controversial approach to immigration on one of my tweets this week, and actually it didn't backfire. I was just testing the waters, but people are generally fed up with the immigration. And back to a point that you and I have talked about many, many times, Canadians are not anti-immigration. We are a nation of immigrants, but people are recognizing that letting in immigrants at the pace that we're letting them in right now is unhealthy. We're letting.
I totally missed that whole last sentiment because of the crappy internet
you froze out. I said I tested the waters with an immigration oriented tweet, and it didn't backfire. It resonated. I got a lot of retweets and comments about it, and basically many Canadians agree with my sentiment that immigration is too high right now. We're not anti-immigration. We just want it really, 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 really curbed down, like a million a year.
This before, like the line in the sand. I've put the line in the sand and said, you know, immigration's a bad thing, and people who have come over and are not permanent residents in Canada, they're temporary students, temporary workers, temporary this, that, and have been promised in Canada from some other third party that's not our government. None of this. I'm sorry, but you came over with the knowledge that this is temporary, and this loophole is no longer going to fly, and that's the problem. Is the loophole is no longer going to fly, and a lot of people are upset because they were promised by agents, you know, private, you know, law firms or whatever that helped them out to try to get here and get permanent residence. Sorry, it's just not going to work. Yeah. But, you know, I draw the line when people say, well, therefore all people from a particular region are bad, and deport anybody who's Indian. It doesn't matter if they were like, you know, born here or generations later. I draw the line at that, and I'm unapologetic about it, because if you came into Canada, you did all the right things, or you were born here, you went through the merit system, you got your immigration. If you were born somewhere else, you absolutely deserve to be here. I love immigration. I love the idea of bringing new people to the country for things that we need, for shortages in our labor force, for shortages in, you know, our hospitals, or shortages in engineering, all these other things that if we don't have enough people to do those jobs, yeah, of course, let's open the doors to other people that are qualified for these things. So I hate being misconstrued in this, and I'm very open and out there saying that no, our immigration policy currently is trash, and it's causing a lot of trouble. And I've been pretty vocal about it. Incidentally, brought Darshan Maharaj on the show recently to talk specifically about this, and he's another proponent talking about how even the Indian community in Canada, people who have immigrated in years past, generations past, are very much against what's happening with the immigration policy currently.
I'll wait for a sec. Any immigrant who came here through the proper channels, paid their dues, will be equally critical of people who are skipping the line. I mean, yes, it's not just the Indians. I mean, my wife Karen worked in the store where they had a lot of Filipino workers, and some of them were the most vocal opponents of the current immigration system because of that. You know, that's what they said. They literally said, I waited 5 years, I went through the proper channels, I did this, and now I'm unhappy that fellow citizens from my native country are skipping the line. So yeah, that's all we ask, is slow it down, give the chance for us to integrate them and for them to integrate with us, to learn our way of doing things, and keep up with the infrastructure, and then everything will be good. Yeah, I genuinely think we need to slow down on immigration. The way it's currently right now, it's out of control. So, hey, I got a couple more stories I wanted to talk about.
I have one like curveball that happened this week, came up this week, and I thought it'd be interesting just to bring in as a topic. I mean, I don't even know how to take this, but we all know who John McAfee was. He was the guy you probably get harassed by his old business, his old company all the time if you're a Windows user. Get McAfee Plus, get McAfee, your McAfee's expired, all of that stuff. But no, John McAfee, the guy who made that program, he died. He died a number of years ago. He died back in 2020, I believe, or no, sorry, 2022. He died, and a lot of mysterious situation around his departure from this place. But he made this tweet in 2021, and it's a really weird one. And I'll read the tweet. This is what he wrote. Mind you, this is in 2020. No, 2020 that he wrote this. He says, Russia's first time traveler has returned. Guess what he said? In September, Biden is medically diagnosed as unfit for office and quits. They discovered that the DNC has illegal power to choose a replacement without a national vote. Weird, huh? You never guess who they choose.
Oh my God, don't tell me. What? Does it go in the next?
No, it just ends there.
Holy smokes. Wow. What's the timestamp on that? It's genuinely...
The timestamp is September 8th. Oh, what was this? No, it was July 18th, 2020.
Wow. Oh, there's I don't like, well, that has the feelings of Q. Remember like QAnon and his some of his like takes like that, you know, it's
it was weird stuff.
Very weird stuff. Well, I mean, okay, John's quote is interesting, but he still doesn't even compete against The Simpsons. I mean, have The Simpsons predicted this? Like, there's got to be an episode of The Simpsons somewhere where Trump gets shot in the ear and Kamala Harris becomes there's got to be an episode of that. Jesus.
Well, check out this clip, though. Check out this clip. He was interviewed before he departed the Earth, and he had this to say.
The reason that the government wanted to collect me was that after they had raided my property in 2012 in the jungle, shot my dog, abused me, destroyed $500,000 worth of my property over a bogus charge, I was pissed off. And so I donated to many secretaries within the government laptop computers, really nice ones that were preloaded with viral spyware. Within a week, the entire government computer system was under my control. I was watching, monitoring, listening. I was looking for information that they had set me up for that raid. I didn't find it. I did find out that the Minister of National Defense was the largest drug trafficker in all of Central America. The Minister of Immigration, the largest human trafficker.
We don't want to get killed by them either, so we're probably not going to share that.
We don't want to get killed by them either, so we're not going to air that, the reporter says. So that didn't air on their actual interview, and somehow that footage leaked out to the internet, and now is infamous. So that was John McAfee. I just thought that was crazy. That news came out this week.
Well, the guy was a professional computer hacker well ahead of his time. So is what he's saying absolutely he is. Can you imagine if you got to read? Well, look, I mean, there's him, there's Julian Assange, there's Snowden. There's like, we've been told this over and over, and it's not conspiracies. I mean, some of the most evil people on the planet are in government. Like, it's, I'd love to see the laptops. I'd love to see what's on Trudeau's laptop, or Freeland's, or Joe Biden's. Oh, Joe Biden's. I mean, God, we've been talking about. Not Joe's laptop. Whose laptop are we talking about? Hunter's
His
laptop.
Sons?
Yeah.
His sons. Joe Biden's probably just has like, okay, wake up and take your pills, and
yeah,
there's not much going on with Joe Biden these days.
Actually, I have 3 laptops I need to take to the dump, and my wife wants me. She saw somewhere on the internet how to destroy a laptop. She wants me to take the drill press in the shop and drill right through the hard drives or whatever. I'm not even sure if that's enough anymore to. If they can recover the contents of a black box, I'm sure they can recover the contents of a laptop. And I'm like, well, by the way, honey, why do you want me to destroy
would they want to?
Yeah, what does the government want from your laptop? Like, should I know something? Actually, my wife looked at me. No, I don't even want to talk about it because we might get canceled on the algorithm. Forget about it. Forget it. Nothing. Yeah.
Well, the thing that gets people canceled is speaking out against Soji and those kinds of agendas. And one moment that happened this past week was, Elon Musk was on Jordan Peterson's podcast, and he revealed why he's had a vendetta against the woke mind virus. And it's a personal one. It's a very personal one for him. And I mean, I think that's enough preface to this video. I think we should just show it so people can see what he had to say.
It happened to one of my older boys, where I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier. This is before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion. I was told, Xavier might commit suicide if he.
That was a lie right from the outset.
Incredibly evil, and I agree with you that people that have been promoting this should go to prison.
That's
so I was tricked into doing this, it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs.
Sterilization.
Anyway, and so I lost my son essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah.
All right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead. Killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. So.
And there's lots of people in that situation now.
Right.
It's not pretty, and lots of demolished kids.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a good reason to be the final straw. All right. So let's.
So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that. And we're making some progress.
Join the club.
Yeah.
That is a powerful clip.
It's a powerful clip. It explains a lot. They were chasing. They're still chasing Elon, trying to figure out how much he donated to the Republicans and so forth and so forth. I mean, God, I don't envy people that are that much in the spotlight. He had a tough week, poor Elon. Speaking of markets, I mean, he had a tough week. He had this interview. He's opening up, and then he's being harassed about his donations to the Republican. And then this week, the market in the U.S. crashed a bit, and then Tesla took it on the chin with about a 12% price drop. So Elon's had a tough week. But
that's hard. 12%
yeah.
of such a ginormous company.
Yeah,
that's a huge hit.
He'll rebound. One thing about that interview, I don't know if it was a little painful to watch though on the one side. On the other, Jordan Peterson's got to learn something that Jordan was uncomfortable in there, and Jordan kept interrupting him. And then there was some funny memes afterwards that came out of that. So somebody came up with the Jordan Peterson interruption factor. It's quite a funny meme because he was brutal in this interview. He kept interrupting Elon, and everybody was like online going like, "Fuck, man, Jordan, just shut up!" Like, it's not about you as a podcaster. It's about the other guy. So the other one, that Jordan,
that's a hard job because, like, especially when you're opinionated and you have things that you want to say. Yeah. So, I mean, I always try to work on it. I try to live with like the dead silence, like actually try to be comfortable in silence, because I think that's hard part as a podcaster is, especially when it's live, you want to make sure that you're filling some of the dead space, but sometimes allowing for somebody to slowly make the reply or the response is the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
And the audience isn't gonna shriek about dead space or dead air, that kind of thing. Just allow for it to happen, because if you're in the moment and you can see that the other person is really just thinking of a response, allow it.
Yeah, and that's where Joe Rogan is so good, right? Joe's mastered the art of talking. Jordan Peterson's a brilliant man, but he's still learning how to podcast and how to interview people. I mean, he was interviewing this week also. He interviewed Danielle Smith, and that was another extremely difficult podcast to watch. He barely let her talk. So, anyways, do you have the clip of Joe Rogan, the recent clip? Did Joe Joe make fun of Canada again, or Trudeau again?
Well, not really
Joe
making fun of Canada. Yeah, Joe actually he's saying how much he loves Canada in this.
Yeah,
clip,
he always does,
believe it or not.
Yeah,
absolutely always does. But yeah, he just definitely does not like our prime minister, and that's where his position is on this one.
I love Canada.
Vancouver's one of the most beautiful cities.
I don't go to Canada anymore. But
ever?
No.
You wouldn't do a gig there?
Not while that guy's president. Fuck you.
Yeah,
or
but
whatever he is, prime
these people
minister.
are fans of yours. They want to see you still.
Fuck you. Get rid of that guy. I'll come back. I just don't trust any of it up there.
Yeah.
I just think they're so far into tyranny right now. Like the laws that they're passing, the shit that they're doing, the erosion of people's rights. Like, I don't want to support it. I think it's fucking horrible.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people there just want to laugh. I think people need a laugh.
Oh, yeah. They definitely need a laugh. They're in the middle of a full-blown communist takeover. Yeah, it's a scary spot.
Yeah,
it's scary, but it used to be amazing. I used to say that Canada's 20% less douchebags. Like the people are 20% nicer than most people that you meet in America.
They're polite.
That's why they get roped into all this shit. That's why they get roped into hate speech laws, because they want to be kind. They want to be good people. And they don't realize, like, compelled speech has a terrible ending. It always ends in communism, because someone has to compel that speech. Who does? The people with guns. And they tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And then you have violence that is enforced to get people to follow a doctrine that they may or may not believe in.
I can't agree more. Like, Canada is absolutely, it's going down that road. It's going down that road towards totalitarianism.
But Joe, I know what you're saying, Joe, but please come for a visit, man. Just still come for a visit. You're not supporting Trudeau. You'd be supporting all of us who would come to see you and listen to you, But he's probably scared. I mean, yeah. We're such a flaky country, you show up at the border and then they don't let you back out or do whatever. They hold you hostage. I mean, look at the fiasco that ended up happening when we held that lady from China hostage in Vancouver. In the end, 2 Canadians ended up rotting in a Chinese jail for 2 years. I'm being hyperbolic, but that's the insane state of our dude.
But I don't think Joe's being hyperbolic. Like,
No,
I really
no.
don't. I think, like, when you look at the news and you look at Bill C-63, for example, the Online Harms Act, when they say that words that you say on the internet, and there are people that say awful things, and I oppose them. I talk smack right back to them on Twitter and whatnot. But I don't say that they shouldn't be allowed to say these things. I'll fight tooth and nail so that they'll have the right to say these awful things. But that's what free speech is. It's standing up for people's right to say even the most horrible things, and showcasing it, saying, hey, look at these idiots and what they have to say.
Yeah, it's not an exaggeration that Joe could be held at the border or somewhere. Well, who's the guy? Tommy Robinson came to, or was it Tommy, or who came to Canada? Actually, what the hell happened?
Yeah, it was Tommy Robinson. Yes. I don't know what happened with that story. He was
story disappeared quickly.
He got picked up in Alberta, and then
and then was denied traveling and whatever. Yeah, okay, Joe. Yeah, you're right. Just stay home until Trudeau's gone. We're trying to get rid of him. Trust me, we're trying to get rid of him.
We're working on it.
We're working on it. Yeah.
Or I'll come tell Joe what all this stuff's about, because I'll be in Austin hopefully soon enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't blame him. I don't blame him. And the laws that are coming out, like the whole idea of, because of words that you may say on the internet, not words that you did say, but words that some judge, not even a real judge, but a tribunal thinks that you might say something offensive in the future, they can put you on house arrest. If this bill passes, it's no longer a free country in Canada.
Yeah.
If there's no free speech, that's the one thing, that's the one right that we have, the right to free speech, to protect all other rights.
Dude, think of what we just lived through in the last 4 years. We had people coming back from travel abroad. We asked them a couple of questions at the airport. If they answered incorrectly, we sent them to a quarantine hotel.
Prison.
So, yeah, prison. For refusing to disclose their vaccine status. So yeah, can you imagine if they question you at the airport now and they go, "Ooh, you said something bad about Justin Trudeau. You're going to jail." Yeah, no, that's what we're going down. I mean, which is why I'm purposely wearing. I have a collection of I Love Oil and Gas T-shirts, and Karen's noticed that. It's like, you wear them often. I'm like, yeah, I'm being vocal. I'm purposely wearing messages all the time to see what happens, because remember I said it. Yeah, I said it. I said it at the conference, right? When you and I were on stage at the We Unify conference. Who did I turn to? I can't remember. I turned to Omar or one of those guys, and I'm like, be prepared. Start building your defense fund, because it's going to be you or me or one of us. We will be victim of these rules if they get passed. You know, we saw it again this week. We saw it again this week. I mean, the Coots too are fighting, but two more Calgarians or Albertans got themselves in trouble this week for something they said about Trudeau. Like, if it's true that they said, I want Trudeau dead. Actually, even that, I got to be careful. But I mean, there's a difference between wishing somebody dead and saying, I'm going to kill that guy. If I said, I wouldn't be upset if that guy
incitement died. Or asking other people to do a thing, right? That's incitement.
Yeah. We're getting to the point where you can't even say, God, I wish that guy would just go walk in the snow, and then be like, oh, you're inciting violence. You're encouraging him to go commit suicide. I'm like, no, it's whatever. Yeah, we're getting down.
But aren't they choking on their words down in the United States over that kind of rhetoric? Because they were actually wishing that there's so many statements from celebrities all over the place talking about assassinating the president, and then there was an attempt, almost successful attempt, and now they're oh, hey, don't come after us for the words that we said. What do you mean don't come after you for the words that you said? We've had 8 years of you coming after people for words that they didn't even say.
Well, remember that comedian who held the fake head of Donald Trump, all bloodied, holding up? What was her name? She was
the carrot top looking one. Yeah, no.
Yeah, she was a B comedian or whatever. She got in trouble for that. And just perhaps the last topic, the director of the Secret Service stepped down. So she did resign.
I hope she didn't step down on a slope.
On the roof. On a slippery
It might have been
slope.
Dangerous
She
I can't believe
just,
she hung on to it for so long. She went through those hearings, and they grilled her. Both sides. It was bipartisan. It was both
did you
sides.
like
You need to step down. It's the only responsible thing to do at this point. You're an absolute disgrace and a failure. And
I mean, I even had to cheer on AOC. Like AOC took a great line of questioning, and I'm like, whoa. But then you realize they had to be bipartisan because AOC brought it up. She's like, you're the organization who's there to protect high value Americans, the president, the vice president, me, perhaps. You know, she understood that this is you got to put away your partisanship at this point because this lady genuinely failed. And AOC asked a great question. She's like,
spectacularly failed.
Yeah,
it was a spectacular failure. And to the point where people are going to talk about this for decades to come. Was it a failure, or did this woman allow this to happen? Was it one of those situations where let's just leave that area unsecured and see what happens?
Happens.
Who knows?
Yeah, that was the question AOC said. You know, what's your perimeter? And the lady's like, or the director said 250 meters or whatever. She's like, the kid used an AR-15 to shoot at the president. The AR-15 is the most common firearm in the U.S. and it has a range of 600 meters. Don't you think you should extend your perimeter beyond 250? She had no answer for that. So, that was a good line of questioning. And then if it's true, the other one that was interesting is that the director is friends with Jill Biden. I'm like, oh my God, could it be? Did she become friends because she's protecting her husband, or did she become friends and then started protecting her husband's? Anyway, she resigned, and hopefully Canadian. Just one day, just once, I'd love to see a Canadian politician step down. When's the last time we had a Canadian politician step down? Do you remember? I don't remember any. Or a bureaucrat.
Who stepped down for Martin to come in? That was Kachin, right? He stepped down.
He didn't really step down. Oh, you know who stepped down? The Governor General. I forgot. Yeah, the Governor General stepped down. Yeah, good for her.
And what was it? Han Dong? He stepped down out of the Liberal Party and then stayed on as a independent accused of communicating with the Chinese.
Dude, we should go. I mean, we're running out of time here, but we need to go back. We need to go back to all these old stories. Think of all the stories we've talked about that have no resolution, right? Like, that's another example. Only 2 months ago, we were talking about 11 people listed in a report as having conflicting interests and not acting in the best interest of Canada. That's done. That's a nothing burger. We don't talk about that. Whatever happened? Whatever happened to the guy who swindled $80 million for a Arrivecan? Whatever happened to Randy's partner? Whatever. Like, my God, like the collective memory and ability for Canadians to forgive and forget is so remarkable. We need to do an episode. One of these days, we should do an episode where we just revisit old stories. What happened? Where are we now? We should do that.
That should be like our New Year's thing. We should do that every year on New Year's. Just
New Year's, yeah.
We country.
Sure, yeah. Best stories of the year and follow up on the best stories. Yeah, let's do that on New Year's. Yeah. We'll follow up. Yeah. My bet is by New Year's we'll still have Trudeau, and we won't know who the 11 traitors are. Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna bet against that. Got my money riding with you, buddy. All right, Marty, where can everybody find you online?
Marty Up North on Twitter. Find me there and come interact with me. And please, like, we're on the same team most of the time. Just because I disagree with, if I agree with you on 99% of the things and I disagree on that last, like, don't throw me under the bus and call me all sorts of names because I disagree on that last 1%. We're better than that.
Yeah, we're better than that, but not everybody on Twitter sees eye to eye. All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Cheers, everyone.